All right, you guys, let's go ahead and get started. If you're new to the channel, welcome everybody. And every once in a while, I like to just remind everybody why we do these decodes. I know for those that are already awake, they might not seem very relevant, but for those that are not awake, these decodes are reminders of the agenda. They are striking examples of how the people who control this world use media and television to program the masses for events that have not happened yet. And when you can effectively show people past films that demonstrate this, it's undeniable. It's undeniable, and it is very powerful in helping to wake people up. So these decodes are never a waste of time, regardless of opinions out there about, the usefulness of doing such decodes. For those of us that are awake, maybe you're already awake to this stuff. But for those that are asleep and they watch a decode on an old film that they remember from past years, then they begin to wake up and they say, wow, too many synchronicities, too many connections for this all to be chance. So, Equilibrium is the film we're going to decode today. And when I first started watching this movie, and I've seen it before many, many years ago, and I actually decoded it, but I cannot find the decode that I did on this movie. It's probably all the way back in like 2014-ish, somewhere in that area is when I decoded Equilibrium the first time. But when I started watching this movie, the feeling that I got was that waking up to truth is a lot like waking up inside the movie Equilibrium. You're going to hear things like sense offenses, they call them. Sense offenses. So someone that has sensations or senses, it becomes an offense. It becomes something that is negative. You have people telling on everybody, ratting each other out. There's mandatory vaccinations. And pretty much every crime that happens in this future dystopia in the movie Equilibrium, every crime is a hate crime. Now, I couldn't believe this because all of this is happening right now. People are afraid to show their emotions. I remember a time back in the 90s when people showed their emotions. And I'm not just talking about anxiety or frustration or anger. People would share sadness or intense love for one another. And it's almost as if people are holding themselves back from displaying those emotions for one reason or another. Some people have been hurt. But there's also this atmosphere of lack of emotions in our society. You're not allowed to feel anymore. And of course, required vaccinations are happening now as well to get certain jobs, as well as all crimes are actually now considered hate crimes, or the possibility of it. You do something to somebody, immediately they try to attach a race to it, or they try to attach an ideology to it. And even the concept of bullying in terms of the online world, which it's impossible to bully someone online because, when it comes to children, I would say, yes, there should be controls on that. But when you're adults, if you can't see someone standing in front of you, that's not bullying. Okay? So even to use that term is ridiculous. And so now that falls under the umbrella of a type of hate crime, bullying somebody. It's unbelievable. So let's take a look at this. This is crazy, you guys. Let's watch.
I saw Bobby Taylor crying today.
Political and psychological sciences. The first, the revolutionary precept of the hate crime.
So this little boy here is Preston's, played by Christian Bale, Preston's son. And Preston is basically what's called a cleric. That's the name he's given in the film. It's the highest order of enforcement to go in and root out sense offenders. And he has like superhuman abilities. He can dodge bullets, kind of like the Matrix. And he can go in to heavily fortified sense offender havens and take them all out. Now his son, interestingly, ends up ratting out his own mother, and she is killed. And so, as you just heard the boy say, he was, I guess, discovered that one of his friends at school was displaying symptoms of feeling. So he probably told on them as well. Let's keep watching here.
Dude, this is a lawful entry. We have a warrant for your wife's arrest. She's charged with sense offense. Hey! Get her! Get her off him now!
Remember me.
So, that was Preston's wife. She got killed. And Preston begins to wake up. Because he starts skipping his mandatory smaccinations. And the scales fall away from his eyes. And the veil is removed. Watch.
How long have you been off the dose? Look at you. Look at you.
Preston is the man in the mirror. The man in the mirror. The Gemini.
Look at you.
The veil falls away as he peels the veil away from the rain-soaked window, and he begins to sense and feel again. Now, what is the name of this drug that everybody's taking? This mandatory drug that they have to take 2 doses. 2 doses every single day, in the morning and evening. Well, the drug is called Prosium, which sounds all like Prozac, doesn't it? Let's keep watching.
And salvation, it has delivered us from pathos, for we embrace Prosium in its unifying fullness. Prosium, the great nepenthe, opiate of our masses, glue of our great society, and all that it has done to make us great.
To make us great? What?
To make us great. To make us great.
To make us great.
With sameness, with unity, allowing each man of individuality, replacing it, conformity.
So the goal here is replacing individuality with conformity. It's the cloning aspect. And this is why you saw Preston staring in the mirror. Because it's the man in the mirror. It's the clone. The Gemini. They want us all wrapped into a hive mind.
Woman and child in this great society to lead identical lives.
Identical lives. Now everything in the equilibrium world looks exactly the same, where everybody is equal to each other. There is no excess, there is no individuality. And this reminds me of Schwab and his words, that you will own nothing and be happy. Now, as Preston begins to skip his Prosium doses, he starts to feel again. And once again, it all centers around the needle. In this case, he puts the needle on the record. Now, this isn't the first time we've decoded the phonograph record and the needle on the record. We've seen this symbolism a few times before in other movies, haven't we? The needle on the record is symbolic of the needle, the hypodermic needle, taking you through a portal. How does it do this? Through sound frequency, and also the spiral on the record. Spirals are portals. An entire song on a record used to exist on a single line, a single groove that spirals away from the center. Essentially, when you listened to a record, it was taking you through a sound portal. And as he's playing this record, you see another needle, the Eiffel Tower. When he looks through the needle with his eye, it reminds me of the eye and the camel passing through the eye of the needle. And never forget Trump's words that he will get to heaven because he spent $500 million on microscopic camels to get through the eye of the needle. Camels are the source vector of the MERS virus. These words he said in 2015, before he ever became president. So as he's listening to this record, he goes into the spiral portal, the spiral record groove, as the record begins to play. Almost sounds like some kind of trigger for what is to come. Now here is a decode that we did on the Eiffel Tower hypodermic needle. Here is the Eiffel Tower here, as you can see. And we did a side-by-side, and we showed you a plunger needle. This is the plunger part of the needle. And it injects into the Eiffel Tower. Now, of course, Eiffel Tower is in 3 dimensions. Much like the Washington Monument is sticking straight up in 3 dimensions. But if you were to rotate this and look from this perspective, you would not see the 3 dimensions, because if you were standing here, it would look as if the tower was laying down on the ground, wouldn't it? Creating a giant hypodermic needle. I'm sure there's a place here where you can stand and literally outline in your line of sight the plunger and the hypodermic needle. Now, this wasn't the only place where we found these needles in the landscape. There's one at the Seattle, the Space Needles. There's also one at the Washington Mall. And the needle tip on there is actually the Washington Monument. And there are several other places on the planet that have these needles in the landscape, because the needles was the serpent's plan all along, to get inside your bloodstream. Notice that the phonograph, I guess you call this an amplifier, an early form of an amplifier, amplifying the sound, is much like the spiral portal. Now, Preston's emotions are overcome when the soldiers that he's working with, as he's starting to wake up, he still does bad things. He's trying to make sense of it all. He doesn't want to keep taking his doses because he knows something's wrong. He's waking up to a nightmare in which the people that he works for use violence to keep everyone else quiet. And he can't figure out how to come to terms with that. And he's battling with it. But as he realizes that they're using violence, he realizes that he is the instrument of violence for the controllers. And that the hypocrisy of what they say and claim that they want to do is so glaring that he wants to just go back to the way things were before. So, the soldiers he's with find a kennel full of dogs, and they fire upon them, and Preston is overcome with emotions. He picks up a puppy, he saves the puppy, but he has to be careful not to show emotion because everyone's watching him, and he makes up an excuse as to why he needs to save the dog. Watch this.
At least some of these animals ought to be tested for disease. There's an epidemic in the Nethers, it's best we know about it.
He needs to test the dog for disease, and there's an epidemic in the Nethers. So the Nethers is where the sense offenders live, in the strongholds. And every so often, the clerics and the army goes into the Nethers to root out some of these organizations who want to feel. So we've got this disease component now introduced into this film, which is all happening right now. And the inference here, because it's a dog, is that it's rabies. Now let's break down Preston's name. I'm going to check in with you guys, make sure we're connected still. And then we're going to break down Preston's name. In fact, I'm going to go into the chat because you guys are all really smart people. I love you guys. You guys are the smartest subscribers on YouTube. Let's break down Preston's name. Let's see who gets it first. Now, if we already know the obvious, that Christian Bale is a contradiction of terms, isn't it? Bale is the devil. It's a demon. Now, don't get it mixed up, because Baal also means Lord. Some people try to discredit the Old Testament God by saying, oh, Baal, it says Baal, it's a demon, it's the devil. No, Baal, the word Baal can mean different things. There's a good Baal and a bad Baal, okay? The Lord was called that as well. So, we already know that Christian Baal is a contradiction in terms, isn't it? A Christian and a Baal. So that's obvious. But what about Preston? So some of you are saying pressed in. There's a stronger connection, though. I mean, that's completely possible, but there is a stronger connection. Remember, what do we do here? We scramble the words, don't we? So what happens when you scramble or reverse Preston's name? And I want you to understand that this name play and this word play is intentional. They do this on purpose. Okay, let me give you a clue. Press and write it in reverse. There you go. Brandon's got it. Serpent. Let me spell it out for you. Preston is serpent. So, he is the blunt instrument. He is the one that enforces, or was enforcing, people to take their 2 doses. He is the serpent. Now, I'm going to break this down further as we move through the rest of this decode. Now, every day, as I said earlier, each citizen has to take 2 doses, morning and evening. Here are the 2 doses here, and it actually says evening and morning. And look at the shape of these doses. They look just like bullets, don't they? Why 2 doses? Why not just one dose? Why are there two doses now? There's something to this. It's because the two doses represent fangs. They represent a pair of fangs. The fangs of a snake. And fangs are hollow. Now, it's really weird the way that the spiritual matrix works. If you sit quietly and listen and watch everything that is happening in your life, you will begin to see clues about what God is trying to tell you. This is why he says, "Be still and know that I am God." This is why he talks about a still small voice that you hear. Yesterday, my contractors were here and they were staining the posts on the porch. It looks amazing. I might upload a picture of it. But I have this weird water hose, and when it fills with water, it expands. And when you turn it off, it like coils back up like a snake. And I was standing there with him. We were talking about something. Oh, he was showing me the stain on the posts. And what came to mind was the post and lintel of Exodus. And then I heard a sound, and I looked over, and the hose was coiling back up on its hanger. And I said to him, "Wow, that's a bad design for a water hose out here in snake country." No sooner had I said that, we both laughed about it, because we're like, yeah, you have a coiling water hose that looks like a snake curling back up. That's going to scare the bejesus out of everybody, right? Literally 20 minutes later, I hear him screaming from the other side of the house where he's putting up a rain gutter. And there was a copperhead snake eating a rat. You guys, God talks to us. Every element of what happened yesterday fit right into today's decode. And I didn't realize it till I started thinking about it. And what does the snake want to do? He wants to eat the stars. Are you awake? Rats is stars backwards. The serpent wants to eat the righteous. The book of Enoch says each of us has a star in heaven that God made for us, almost like a gift, a memento, so that when you look up in the night sky, you can say, wow, one of those stars is for me. The book of Enoch says the righteous and the angels each have a star in heaven that shines as brightly as your righteousness on earth. In other words, if you are not righteous in your life, your star is probably very dim. It's like a beacon. But if you are very righteous, then your stars are shining the brightest in the skies. Wow. So, the serpent wants to eat the stars. God is amazing, isn't he? So, I hope today when you guys leave, you'll start to begin to take notice of certain events in your life, things that happen, seemingly innocuous synchronicities. I'll give you another example. Contractor came to the property and he said, wow, your dogwoods are blooming. They're not supposed to bloom until May. He said this year, I think we're going to get a double bloom. They'll bloom again in May. But for some reason, on certain years, the dogwoods bloom twice. And that is the hope that God gives us. Because it's not all gloom and doom. The dogwoods, as many of you said, is what Christ was crucified on. He's literally talking to us and giving us hope. The double dogwood bloom. Now, if any of you are familiar with this, that's about all I know about it. There may be more to the double dogwood bloom, and I would be anxious to hear what you guys have to say about that in the chat. If you've heard of that before, I don't know, but it is amazing. And thanks Cheryl and her husband for letting me come over and take a shower on Sunday. We made some steaks and hung out. They made the move out here. They're not far from where I'm at. So thanks Cheryl for that. You guys are awesome. So what? Let's see here. It's anyone? Yep, my grandma's dogwood is fully in bloom right now. Yes, Jared. And they're not supposed to be in. They're not supposed to bloom until May. So they're saying it's going to be a double bloom year this year. So that's amazing. So let's keep going with this. The double shots. Now, this is another concept that we've seen many, many times. Remember in the Mario Brothers movie where he takes 2 shots of liquor? Now you're seeing that these connections aren't so silly. Let's keep going here. So those are the 2 doses. They're like bullets. And again, Preston looks in the mirror. The man in the mirror. And what does Preston do? He actually hides his doses behind the mirror. Now, what is the spiritual significance of this? Well, the doses are what cause you to have the twin Gemini spirits. So the fact that he's staring in the mirror and he hides the doses behind the mirror is very spiritually significant. You guys, these scripts are literally fallen angel level intelligence. When you finally break down the symbolism in this, you realize that the only being that could have written these scripts is a fallen angel or the devil himself. Because this is what the doses in the movie cause people to do. The Gemini spirit. Now, it goes a level deeper because watch this. Look what's behind the mirror. I want you to look at your screen right now, and one of you is going to know the answer to this riddle. What are you looking at on the screen right now? And how does that fit in to what we've been talking about in decoding over the last couple years? Let's see who gets this one. Someone will get this one really fast. Now, why is it important to know all this stuff? There you go. Joe got it. The pipes. It's the iron pipes. It's the mixing of steel with watery clay. The pipes are the hollow needles. They're hollow iron. That's what hypodermic needles are. I think in this case, these are iron pipes because they're plumbing pipes. So, more symbolism. Why would they show... Oh, there's a copper pipe there too. Oh, good job. Eyes to see. Why would they show the pipes, so many pipes behind the mirror? Now you're seeing that this was put here intentionally. This is high sorcery. They could have put anything else behind here. They could have put one pipe with just the studs in the wall, right? But no, there's all these pipes. The pipes are the needles that will give the dose. $7 billion doses. Now, are you ready for this? All three lead actors in the film, Ty Diggs, Emily Watson, and Christian Bale, were all born in January, which is the Janus, the Two-Face Janus. And look at the T symbolism here. Now in the film, the T stands for the Tetragrammaton, which is what the clerics work for. The Tetragrammaton is run by Father. They call him Father. So it's all mockery, right? And there again, we have the Katana. Remember the Katana we talked about? Well, Christian Bale, in his final betrayal of the Tetragrammaton, because he turns on them and he thinks that he's going to help the resistance to come against the Tetragrammaton, but they end up tricking him. He's double-crossed. But he carries a katana, a sword. And remember when Martha Stewart chopped off the pineapple, telling you to get your booster? And she used a katana. This is the beheading. This is the separation of you from your pineal gland, and introducing the twin spirits.
I saw Bobby Taylor crying today.
Let no man steal your crown. Let no man separate you from the seat of your soul, from your pineal gland, from the place where the Holy Spirit resides in you. The only way that can happen is if you start introducing things into your body. Look at the twin dark pillars here. Apollo's pillars. Remember in the movie I Am Legend, when Will Smith is doing pull-ups and you see the two twin pillars? So Preston is double-crossed. He thinks by pretending to give up the resistance that he'll gain access to the top controller, which is called Father. But then he finds out that Father is not real. Father is a hologram, a political puppet of a lower-ranking bureaucrat. Watch.
Don't look so surprised, Preston. Why should Father be more real than any other political puppet?
We've never met.
No?
And that is what I've been trying to tell you guys. All politicians are literally, not literally, but figuratively, holograms of their father, the devil. They do his will and his bidding. And it's at this point of the film that I realize something. Christian Bale is the T-Rump Batman. Bale would go on to play Batman in 3 separate roles. Wow. And of course, T-Rump admitted that he was Batman. And he has the Batman T-Rump tower that looks like a giant bat boomerang. And on and on and on. The 3 dark buildings, the T-Rump International Hotel, the T-Rump World Tower and T-Rump Tower, all black buildings, like Batman. Bo Jiven is Robin. Robinetti. They're all possessed by demons, you guys. So, wow, right? Powerful. And if you were to show somebody not just one of these decodes, you have to see the pattern. You can't just take one, because they're going to say that's just an umbrella. It's not a syringe, or those aren't bullets, or, you know. But once you see that repeated over and over and over again in every single one of these films, that's when people begin to wake up and they see the common author behind these films. The common author. All right, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Whoa, heavy, right? Yes, Christian Bale, Keith, absolutely. It was also in American Psycho and in Newsies. Is that a film he was in? Wow, Bale said thanks to Satan when he won the Oscar. I didn't know that. Oh boy. Here we go. It's pretty blatant when you take the time to break it all down, right? Most people watch this stuff for entertainment, so they don't see the patterns. This is why what we do is important, because no one else is really digging this deep and actually creating a library of work that can be referenced, cross-referenced, and compared to one another. I don't think anyone's really doing this. So it's important work, and it is the task that the Most High has given me, along with the help of all of you. Because it was you guys that kept asking me to watch Equilibrium. I was like, I already watched that. I don't remember anything profound, but I listened. I was like, okay, I'll go back and watch it. Because this isn't about me. It's about the work. It's about you. It's about waking people up to the gospel and helping people realize the truth about the reality that we live in. And once you step outside of that, you can have happiness in this reality. But it's a process of separation. Getting out of this world. You know, I woke up this morning, I'm laying on a mattress on the floor, surrounded by dust coming off the walls from the drywall, because they just sanded yesterday. There's dust and wood everywhere and sawdust. And I look out through the windows, and the sun is coming up right through the windows. And all I could think to myself is, why my whole life did I think making a bunch of money and living in a certain place, spending lots and lots of money on mortgages and rents, and thinking that all those things were about happiness, when true happiness is simplicity and nature. But so many people are afraid to do it because it sounds scary to them. They're like, I don't like bugs. I don't like snakes. I don't like... You guys, this is heaven. It's heaven on earth before we get to heaven. You can have all of the promises that Jesus promised, but you have to step outside of the paradigm that the enemy has created for you, which is bigger is better, go into debt, carry a mortgage. You have to start thinking outside of that paradigm, because you will just stab yourself all over with many pains, the Bible says, by seeking after riches. Or something like that. So, simplicity is better. Lower your stress levels. This is when God begins to talk to you. People often tell me, why don't I feel God? Why am I separated from Him? God wants to talk to you. He wants to share the still small voice. But He also wants you to be still and know that He is God. I love each and every one of you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Probably going to do some between the headlines. There's lots of stuff to catch up on. Much love, you guys. Take care and be safe.